श्री S.C. Jamir, लोक कार्य।
Why you talk about now Nagaland? You are Manipuri.
Welcome viewers, thank you for tuning into this deep dive narrative on why the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, NSCN-IM, holds such intense hostility towards SC Jamir. In what follows you'll hear a continuous story, rooted in concrete events, political decisions and symbolic struggles, rather than a dry list of bullet points. We'll walk through the historical junctures, the grievances, the violence and the identity conflicts that make Jamir a focal point of insurgent ire.
It is the choice of the Naga people. That is the reason.
In the rugged hills and valleys of Nagaland and the larger Naga homeland, Jamir is not just a politician, he is a living symbol of a path that insurgents believe undermined the Naga national cause. His trajectory, from early negotiations, through state politics, into roles within the Indian constitutional system, stands in contrast to the militant narrative of full sovereignty, of a Naga identity outside or above the Indian state. That contrast is central to why NSCN-IM looms large in his story as his adversary. From NSCN-IM's perspective, Jamir is condemned for his role in what they view as foundational missteps. The text of a 2008 NSCN-IM statement captured this sharply. Jamir was baptized and utterly immersed into Indian philosophy and politics in 1960 and has been a stumbling block to Naga national resistance ever since. They pointed to his involvement in the 16-point agreement era, to his governmental roles, and to speeches in which he asserted that the attainment of Nagaland statehood had fulfilled Naga aspirations, a claim they see as an affront to true sovereignty. One incident encapsulates the depth of the mistrust. NSCN-IM reproached Jamir for a letter he wrote when he was parliamentary secretary in Delhi to P. Shilu Au, in which he asserted, "If he starts negotiating with Fizo, I am prepared to come back because there is no use sitting here to be only laughing stock. I believe that we are also quite capable to create more trouble than the hostiles could do." For NSCN-IM, this was proof of Jamir's adversarial posture, casting insurgents as hostiles and threatening action, rather than embracing nationalism from their vantage. As Jamir climbed the ladder of state politics, and later governorship, his decisions and public positions repeatedly collided with the militant narrative. A notable example, in December 2002, as Chief Minister, Jamir urged the government of India to secure an assurance from NSCN-IM that it would not disrupt elections. NSCN-IM regarded this as a sign of Jamir aligning with the Indian state against them. In 2003, the war of words exploded when Jamir described NSCN-IM cadres coming to Delhi as good Indian citizens with valid Indian passport. NSCN-IM saw this as outright insult, a denial of their claim to sovereign Naga identity. That clash of rhetorical frameworks, one of constitutional citizenship, the other of nationalist resistance, frames much of the hostility. The violence and threat dimension feeds into the animus. Although NSCN-IM in 2011 publicly denied an assassination plot against Jamir and claimed intelligence inputs came from Jamir himself for stage-managed ambushes, the fact that such allegations are made at all demonstrates the extent to which Jamir is perceived as a threat by insurgents. Whether or not all attempts are authentic, the perception of him as an enemy piece in the insurgency state struggle is clear.
These two villages shall have maintained.
At a deeper level, this is not just about Jamir the man, but Jamir the symbol. NSCN-IM's narrative holds that the 16-point agreement era and similar political settlements accepted statehood rather than full sovereignty, institutionalized Indian law in Naga territory, and narrowed the ambition of Naga self-determination. Those they hold responsible for that trajectory, including Jamir, are seen as betraying Naga nationalism. A recent article quotes Jamir as saying that those who signed the agreement are now feeling shy for assenting to drop flag, constitution and sovereignty. That internal contradiction in Naga politics between engagement and insurgency is one of the battlegrounds where Jamir becomes contested. In that way, the RIIN, Register of Indigenous Inhabitants of Nagaland, debates and identity register politics enter as another layer. While RIIN is an administrative tool, in the cultural political terrain it becomes a proxy for the larger struggle over who belongs, who stands for the Naga nation, and who is part of its future governance. Jamir's alignment with constitutional pathways places him on the side of institutional change. NSCN-IM's alignment with nationhood outside or above those institutions puts him on the side of the status quo they refuse. So when identity registers become instrumentally important, Jamir is implicitly in the box of the Indian-governed, state-oriented actor, and NSCN-IM targets him accordingly. It matters that the insurgents view statehood inside India not as the triumph of the Naga question, but as a truncation of their aspiration. In their statements, they accuse Jamir of highlighting the merits of Nagaland statehood as though it had fulfilled Naga aspirations, while calling Naga sovereignty a myth. That kind of framework is anathema to NSCN-IM because their vision remains incomplete. They continue to demand recognition of Naga flag, constitution, territories beyond the Indian administrative Nagaland state. In that light, Jamir becomes not merely a political opponent, but a living evidence of what they regard as compromise, dilution and betrayal. Other flashpoints: Jamir's invocation of the Indian constitution as the sole vehicle for resolution, his criticisms of unconditional talks with militants, for example urging that NSCN-IM be declared terrorist if it refuses to accept the Indian constitution, are cited by the insurgents as proof of his collusion with the Indian state. Meanwhile, Jamir's defenders point to his record as a democratically elected leader who believes in peaceful settlement, development and institutionalization of governance. This difference of perspective, nationalist vs constitutionalist, is at the heart of the divide. Let's narrate an arc. A young Naga leader signs an agreement in 1960 that leads to statehood, hoping it gives his people governance inside India. Decades later, that statehood is politically established, but unresolved insurgent camps persist, demands for sovereignty remain. NSCN-IM grows, insisting the settlement is incomplete and betrays the Naga national cause. The man who was part of that earlier settlement process and who continued to work within Indian polity becomes the symbol of what militants oppose. He occupies a position of power, of institutional legitimacy. The insurgents view him as having helped legitimize the Indian state presence in Nagaland, weakening the insurgent path. They view his language, his alliances, his governance as not simply pragmatic, but antithetical to their aspiration. Hence they demonize him, target him rhetorically, and in some cases physically. The story of why NSCN-IM hates Jamir is thus not reducible to personal rivalry. It is a story of competing visions for the future of the Naga people, one that demands full sovereign identity, one that embraces state within India and constitutional politics. Jamir stands for the latter. NSCN-IM cannot countenance the latter without scrambling their ideological foundation. Every public speech by Jamir in which he emphasized democratic means, his every meeting with New Delhi, every time he referenced the Indian constitution as the framework for the Naga solution is fuel for insurgent condemnation. Each attempt on his life or threat broadens the cycle of hostility. Because of this, the struggle over history becomes key. For NSCN-IM, the 16-point agreement is not just a historical footnote, but the root of the continuing problem. For Jamir and many institutional actors, it is part of a pragmatic process. That divergence transforms Jamir into a lightning rod of insurgent anger. In the context of the ongoing debates about identity, who qualifies as indigenous, what rights derive from that, how registers should be managed, the symbolic dimension of Jamir's role intensifies. When militants push that identity must transcend Indian state frameworks, a leader like Jamir who situates politics within those frameworks is seen as the antithesis of their narrative. And so the story continues. In sum, NSCN-IM's hostility towards SC Jamir is rooted in their conviction that he represented, and continues to represent, the institutionalization of a settlement they reject, that he actively or passively facilitated Indian constitutional control rather than Naga sovereignty, and that his rhetoric and decisions weakened the militant narrative of equal or greater Naga nationhood. Because insurgencies prize symbolism, because identity is contested, because the Naga question remains unresolved. A figure like Jamir becomes more than a political opponent, he becomes a target. Thank you for watching this analysis. If you found this helpful, do subscribe to ZalengamMedia for more deep dives into Northeast India's political dynamics. Sources: Jamir faces NSCN-IM censure, Morung Express, September 2008. Jamir Deni's NSCN-IM charge, The Telegraph India, August 1999. IM stand on SC Jamir, EPO, April 2011. NSCN-IM, Jamir lock horns, Hindustan Times, February 2003. Delay in final solution for Naga political issue, Nagaland Tribune, February 2024.
श्री SC जमीर लोक कार्य।
Why you talk about now Nagaland, Nagaland? You are Manipuri. You are Manipur. We belong to Nagaland. And don't confuse about even your own leaders led by Muiva. In their agreement, they have deleted integration and sovereignty. Remember that. In a great position also you don't find integration nor sovereignty. So when they have those people who are engaged political dialogue with the government of India, they have realized that it's not possible. Then, whatever they have decided, this is final. And therefore, neither you nor even Nagaland Assembly have no power to alter that agreement between representatives of underground and government of India. Don't interfere in our business. We shall also not interfere in other business. Leave Nagaland alone. We shall be able to manage our affairs.
Assam reform game, Assam reform game in cross the village, NSCN-IM mato. Good night.
Abi, let's go. Follow me.
Assam reform game mato jealous hota hai. Assam reform mato jealous hota.